Hello everyone, this is Matt, owner of the Kansas City Monarchs in the GUBA Baseball League. I wasn't quite in the writing mood, so I thought I'd try something different and make a little video check-in for the league. It's kind of something that I've been thinking about, but finally had the time tonight to sit down and record. Before the season started, I'd wanted to do kind of like team previews for some of the teams and kind of do a video for that, but never got around to it. So I know we've had some podcasts going out recently. So here's another thing that's kind of just a little bit different than the usual writing features. The test videos that I was making, the recording was buffering a little bit, especially at the start. So if that happens, I apologize. I'm still trying to kind of figure out how this stuff all works. So first, I thought we could head over to the standings page, kind of see who's on top here. We have Nashville leading the way in the East, sitting at 53 and 24, with Cincinnati sitting behind them 9.5 games behind. Down in the West, we have KC and seemingly kind of flip-flopping every single sim, it seems like, going back and forth. Over in the Atlantic, we have Moscow sitting at 50 and 25, a game above the surging San Juan team, currently on a 12-game winning streak. And then down over in the East, we have Seoul and Tokyo, both currently at 38 and 39, under 500, but still leading the division, with some teams shortly behind them in Christchurch, Beijing, and even Singapore still kind of in the conversation here. So if you look at the full league standings here, there's definitely a few teams that kind of stand out to me for their spots in the standings. We have Toronto down here, 42. Definitely thought they would be better this season. I mean, they're coming off a year in 2074 in which they won, I believe, 102 baseball games. They won the tiebreaker for the East over Cincinnati to win the division. They advanced to the World Series where they would ultimately lose to Dublin, but it was certainly, still an accomplishment to be proud of. But over in the first half of 2075, have just not really been able to figure it out so far. Kind of sitting still in reach of the wild card, but the division is definitely not something they can really grab right now. Right below them, another team that has been surprisingly disappointing through the first 3 months of the season, in Houston. I mean, this is a team that recently won back-to-back World Series. They definitely seemed like they were set up for long-term success, but have kind of stumbled through, so far. They're a half game behind Toronto at 34 and 43. I know they had got off to a rough start in April, and I think they were starting to pick it up a little bit. Tonight lost the last six. Not a good sim for them. Kind of back where they started. Still, hanging around the wild card conversation. The West is probably not something they're going to be shooting for, with Honolulu and KC kind of pulling away with the top few spots. Over in the FIB, we have two teams down here, as Christchurch and Beijing, both sitting, 5 and 6 games back respectively. I think both those teams won 90 games last year. I know Beijing for sure, that I'm pretty sure Christchurch, if they didn't pass it, they were, upper 80s, I believe. So both those teams kind of, trying to win now, and that really hasn't happened so far in 2075. Thank goodness for them. They play in the East, the far East. So, they're only 2.5 games back, which, considering what their records are, I'm definitely guessing they're thankful for that. And then the last team that kind of stands out is down here is Sydney, which is kind of crazy to see that they have tied for the worst record in baseball with the San Antonio Outlaws, sitting at 29 and 47, almost 20 games under, and it's not even July. Certainly the wheels have definitely fallen off there. I'm sure if you want to go read more about it, go check out Scott's team news or check on Slack. I'm sure he's got plenty for you. But yeah, just not the start for Sydney that they wanted. I know Scott's been already trying to sell off some pieces there of expiring contracts. So we'll kind of see see what happens if they move any bigger names. But right now, probably not. So I thought we could kind of check into some of these top tier teams now and kind of see, what's going right for them and, where all their success is coming from. So first we'll check in with Nashville here. They have been crazy hot. I just kind of noticed this earlier. 17-4 in June. So they're doing pretty well. And even then, 20-9 in May. So they pretty much just continue to get better as the season has gone along here. They just swept Tokyo, won 3 out of 4 against Houston. They took 2 out of 3 against us. They swept Toronto. So they've been killing it so far. 31 games above 500. Sorry, 29 games above 500. And a lot of that, I think you can see down here, can be attributed to their offense. They are pretty much first in everything. Runs scored, OPS, batting WAR, all the big ones there, home runs. And, the main guy that's contributing to that is Kyle Knopp, I think is how you say his last name. I'm definitely going to butcher a lot of names here, so I apologize. Some of these guys I'm not even going to try. But, yeah, so they're future Hall of Fame middle infielder here. Currently has 6.6 WAR. I think he's on pace for like 13 or 14, something crazy like that. But this is a guy who, missed the majority of last season. Only played in 38 games before going down with a season-ending injury. I mean, even before he got hurt, he was hitting pretty well. I mean, 936 OPS, that would have been his second best of his career. Behind that, the 2067 year he had where he reached nearly 10 WAR. So it's not like he, wasn't doing well last season, but he's just definitely taken it a step further this year. Has managed to stay healthy. He's started 71 games. He's got an OPS of well over 1,000. He's already closing in on a career high for home runs with 24. He's stealing bases, an extra, a great rate there. 36 out of 39, pretty good. So he's definitely been, the main man in this lineup, like he has been for years for the Sounds. Another guy that I noticed here that's really playing well, Ricardo Martinez. I'm honestly not too familiar with him because if you look at his career, I mean, man's a 750 career OPS. He played, he actually played pretty well for Nashville last year. Kind of what I would expect with a guy with his talents. Kind of just an empty batting average, stole some bases. But again, another guy he's just, on another level this year. He's already hit 23 doubles, 5 triples. Even has 4 home runs. So yeah, I mean, he's kind of come out of nowhere. I don't know if he can sustain this kind of performance that he's had, but he's certainly been a good pickup for the Sounds from coming over from Sydney. So it's kind of interesting. The rest of this lineup, honestly, it's not, Jose Martinez having a pretty good year here. But other than that, no one else really stands out that much. So just kind of a few guys that are really, playing well for them. Down the rotation, you can see one big name is missing, and he's over here, Carlton Williams. Sustained a day-to-day injury, it looks like, earlier in the month. Last pitched on June 11th. So, I mean, before that, though, he was, doing his usual thing, 3.3 WAR in 14 starts, 2.41 ERA. So, my guess is he'll be back, a few weeks here, back in the rotation. But other than that, I mean, no one's, standing out too much for them in the rotation. But their bullpen has definitely been really good. I mean, look at, you got 3 different guys who are under 2 ERA. Biggest one is Corda here. He's got a 1.06 ERA, 7.6 whip. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff to have it back in your bullpen. So that's kind of a look in Nashville. We'll pop back over the standings here. And let's take a look now at Moscow, who at 50-25 have a 1-game lead and over San Juan, 7.5-game lead over Dublin, the closest chasers right now for them. I know last year, I think they struggled at the beginning of the year, if I remember correctly. We're sitting around 500 for most of the time, if not under. And then did rally to make the postseason eventually. I think won in the upper 80s for game total. But I know I was kind of surprised. I felt like this was really a team that was certainly, I think I even said they were the most talented team on paper, in my opinion. So I was kind of shocked to see them struggle like they did last year. But they have definitely turned it around so far. As you can see by the record, 25 games over 500 so far. Lots of talent on this team. I was kind of looking through the roster earlier, and they have some high caliber players here. They don't have necessarily as dominant offense as Nashville. It's actually 12th in batting average, so they're the worst hitting team, contact-wise in the league, at least in the FIB. But still third in WAR, second in OPS, which ultimately is probably the most important. Tied for first in runs scored. They walk and they hit home runs. That's their thing. They're not going to mess around with singles. What really is carrying this team is kind of the opposite of Nashville. Is their pitching staff has been fantastic. First in runs allowed, first in ERA. They don't walk anyone. They strike out a lot of guys. They have fantastic defense, which is interesting that they have such great defensive efficiency, but almost -8 zone rating. But still, I'd say defense has been pretty good too. They've also been hot in June. Rotation's been led by this guy. They're not even going to bother saying his last name, Alexander. I think everyone kind of story behind him. Came over from Bogota, got the very change up, and now he's been a stud. He's really kind of put together, taking that next step. He came out in 2073, around Rookie of the Year, 5.5 WAR, and then took a little bit of a step back in his sophomore season, but is right back on it this year and has been killing it so far, leading the league in ERA. The rest of the rotation also really good. That's kind of been the story of the Moscow the last few years. Has been their starting pitching. Larson, Salinas, two very good pitchers behind their ace. So, and then if you look at their bullpen too, there's crazy amount of talent that is in this bullpen. Some guys that I honestly hadn't not too familiar with. I know Carlos Romero. It's not really a guy I was familiar with. He's approaching that starting pitcher tag there with that screwball. But probably best to just leave him as is for now. He's killing it in the bullpen. On pace for 120 innings. Looks like Afino's crossed the dark side to dual stoppers here. But it's definitely been working, as Wally Herbert is a fantastic pitcher here too. He's got great stuff, and then he also has excellent movement and control. So, only 24, he's definitely a great reliever. And even the back end here too, certainly not just the top guys, but the back end too have been pitching really well. So yeah, if you look at their offense over here, their second year first baseman, I'm not even gonna try that last name either, but you can see his stats here. He also, I think, on Rookie of the Year last year. Yep, Rookie of the Year. Hit a league leading 41 home runs and 5 WAR. Again, he's taken another step further this year in his sophomore season. His ratings are good. Would I expect this to be a guy that's hitting 48 home runs? Maybe not. But, still right-handed hitter, can hit both right-handed and left-handed pitching. Got to put up good numbers for you, kind of regardless. Go back to Moscow's team page. I mean, no one else, when you look at it, they don't really stand out just because of that low batting average. But, he does have five other guys here that have had double-digit home runs. Another guy, Will Walsh, with nine, Julian Gosser with eight. Um, I would expect these guys to hit better. I mean, 192. I know neither Gosser or Walsh are contact hitters, but they're certainly better than that. And then you got Camacho, maybe. Another guy here. He's got crazy ratings. I know I've kind of been watching this guy because he continues to bump, but I mean, look at this. Against right-handed pitching, you're not going to find any player in the league that has this much blue. Full 20 for gap power, and eye against right-handed pitching. So to see a guy with that kind of talent, he's hitting 821 OPS. That's not bad, but certainly with ratings like that, expect to probably see a little more slugging. I mean, 24 home runs. I guess he's only played, he's only on pace for 106 games. But this is a guy I definitely think can turn it on, especially if he continues to bump contact or avoid K. So let's go back to standing page. Let's take a look at what's going on for the Tibbs. Guys, they've won 12 in a row. So clearly they're playing good baseball here. So maybe a little lucky. They're tied in first for runs scored, but they're only third in OPS. They are second in WAR, so just maybe by a little bit over 400, not much. Pitching staff is pretty good as well. So they're a balanced team, and they do play pretty, average to above average. I mean, they're good zone rating defense. They're 18-3 in June. So like Moscow, like Nashville, they're playing great. They're killing one-run baseball games, 25-11. The SAG record's only 44-31. So maybe they're not quite as good as their record indicates, but they're certainly a quality baseball team here. Looking on offense, old man Kesterton still getting it done. 34 years old. Signed in the offseason with San Juan on a pretty big deal. I think it's 4 years. Yes, 4 years. $129 million. Team option on the last year. But so far, I mean, I think if you would have told us Skynet he's getting 8 WAR for Kesterton, I think he would have justified that $32 million for sure on the year. So I mean, his ratings are holding up. So we'll see if that continues. The right-handed hitters this year I've seen to be. I mean, we've looked at a few already in Knop and Moscow's first baseman, and then now Kesterton. 3 guys that have shown a lot of power, and they're both all in the 20s in home runs. So for every reason, they're hitting well this year. The rest of the lineup, no one crazy. You got Hagedon. It's the first time I'm actually really seeing this guy. 22 years old, former IAFA signing back in 2069. He's got 3.7 more, so he's having a pretty good year. He's slugging at a crazy percentage. He's on pace for 58 doubles. That's 19 gap power. That'll do that. So it's a nice good hitter here. I'm assuming it's bumped. Yeah. He was an okay prospect, but he's definitely bumped up another level to where he was, and he can hit. You can play him against left-handed pitching and not get killed. And he's pretty good. He can play on different positions. You can play him in the outfield if you need to. He's going to be best at third and second. Can definitely hold his own there. So he'll be an all-star for sure for San Juan. But other than those guys, check out him. He could be an all-star too, potentially. But yeah, so those are the key guys on offense for the Tibbs. Again, just all 5 of their starters below 4 ERA. So no one's really, going crazy, but all very solid. I know Daryl Ballard here was a top prospect for a while. I just filled out his ratings. Is this his rookie year? Okay, so first full season, he started to, be a good pitcher for them, especially at 23, durable, definitely a valuable asset. So let's look at the other side, flip the coin here, and look at some of the struggling teams. So first, let's just go to Houston, see them there. So offense has definitely taken a step back from where it was a few years ago. I think what was it, 2073, their offense went nuts, and pretty much every player was going off. All had career years. Oh yeah, because that was the year Kelly Juan Castaneda was in 2073. I think they were still a good offensive team last year. And even this year, they're not bad, but just compared to league average, they're just slightly above average offensively so far. They lost a few big offensive players in Kesterton and Miguel Angel Martinez, and they just really have not been able to replace those guys, at least at the plate. You see the current center fielder hitting 235, although he's pretty young, so rookie. And then the current first baseman hitting 234. So definitely have not been able to replace those guys that they lost in free agency this past year. But I mean, it's some of their current players too that they still have on the roster. I mean, Craig Kelly, after he had that insane year in 2073, had almost 1.10 OPS, was just under that. Last year's, yeah, he hasn't been bad, but he's just not, hitting at that level he was earlier in his career. He still just got paid like he was. I think 9-year contract, 9-year contract, almost $300 million. So he'll be paid well. So I'm sure they're gonna need him to turn around to justify, that contract even remotely. But it's not just Kelly. We have Kirby Passiger here. He's not. I mean, he's not having a bad year. It's not terrible, but not quite what he was doing. Especially, another guy in that 2073, he had over 400 OBP, and just really he hasn't even come close to that. Really at any point in his career. So I would just need to see if he can ever kind of get back to that level. I think he is going to be kind of, like we just saw. He's got to be kind of in that 3, maybe 2.5 to 4 WAR category, yeah, just around 800 OPS. Kind of what it is for his career averages. Is what more I'd expect from him. I mean, he's a solid defender on left. He's got good range for a left fielder, so he's got to play well defensively. But yeah, he's just not going to be that guy that he was in 2073. I mean, and then you look at the rest of Houston's lineup here. Valerino, shout out to some of my former guys here, just not hitting well. I know I kind of looked at adding him again in the offseason, bringing him back home, but just wasn't in the cards for me. But Houston went ahead and pulled the trigger and bring him in, and it has not paid off so far, unfortunately. And then you look at the rest of their lineup; they're just not getting. I mean, there's not much power here. I mean, yeah, 11th in home runs, so they could really use a power bat in here. They might just want to, you know, hit the Turos up and bring back, Miguel and Angel Martinez. Bring him back in. He might be worth the price just to get another guy with some pop in there because outside of Kelly right now, no one is really, hitting home runs. I used to got Rosted in here, hitting 306, 9 home runs, so he's doing pretty well. But other than him, not too much to look at there. Even the rotation overall, it's not been bad. Well, their bullpen's been the problem. I can tell you that. 11th in bullpen ERA, rotation not bad. I mean they're 4th, which is pretty reasonable. Even defense, it's okay. It's pretty average. But if you look at their bullpen, it looks like they just got a lot of dudes in here, and no one really to kind of take over those late innings. They can really trust. Yeah, I'm looking through these guys. It just they all kind of blend together. Nothing really special. So when that happens, I guess they got Joe Young as their top reliever here. 2.55 ERA. But I mean, he's 20, 13, 11, a low 20 for sure. When you look at that, 17 fastball, 15 sinker, nothing crazy. So Houston, if I'm Houston, you know, definitely gonna need some pop in that lineup, and the bullpen is definitely something that needs improving if they want to hop back in this race. I mean, if you look at the wild card standings, they're only a game and a half out. Edmonton and Cape Cod both currently sitting in the playoffs. Edmonton's just above 500, Cape Cod's 6 under. So, we talked about Houston and Toronto. Certainly teams that can make a move and get up there. I mean, even Greenville and New Orleans still kind of in that conversation, hanging around. So we'll see if any of these teams start making some moves, try and move up there. I know Greenville just recently added a pitcher, so trying to make their way up. We'll see if it can happen. We'll head on over now to Beijing, another team that has, struggled. I think they won, let's check here, 190 something? 90 something games last year? Maybe 90? 90. So they won 90 games last year, 1972, and their first winning record since 2069. So I think another team that was kind of hoping they were on the upswing. They went out in the offseason, spent a ton of assets to get, former Toro slugger Theodore Cruz. And so far he's been hitting, but just not too much else around him. I mean, team OPS is .669. That is not good. They don't hit for much power like Houston. 10th in runs scored. I mean, this is clearly an offense that needs upgrading. They went out and got Gang Lee too in free agency. It looks like he's just not quite the player he once was, but he's still a decent catcher. But I mean, the rest of it, it's just not guys that are gonna wow you. I mean, Connor Brooks has always been pretty good. He's hurt right now. Looks like. Oh, Dunbar, I forgot. He's gonna wow you, but he's on the IL. So, but even then, he wasn't hitting too well once he was playing. Only hitting 245, 711 OPS. Not really anything near his usual standards. I mean, look at all that red for being a league leader. I mean, he had 428 OBP last year, and 70 points below that so far this year when he was playing. So they're gonna need more production from him. And like I mentioned earlier, like this team is 2.5 games out. I mean, they're still in the conversation to move up, surpass Seoul and Tokyo. I certainly think they can do it. But a lot of that is probably going to come, if they do, from their rotation here. They still got Gallardo, Hawkins, the 1-2 punch there, both really good pitchers. They have Jeff Brooks, who I know is another change-up fairy guy. I don't think he's quite been able to figure it out too much here. Just his major league stats. So yeah, 5.24 career ERA. Not very good. He's got a .6 total for WAR. So 47 starts in. Certainly the talent has not, and the production has not matched the talent on him. So we'll see if he can turn it around. Beijing's still pitching him like they expect him to play well though. So we'll see if he can turn it around. They got Rui and Grooves here. Grooves is just I remember him from my team. Nothing special as your fifth starter, but he's been okay. He's hanging in there. If we switch over to the other team here in the Far East that have kind of been below expectations in Christchurch, it looks like to me they've been getting a little unlucky. I mean, they're, well, maybe not. So they're tied for first in runs scored, yet they're eighth. Oh, eighth in OBP. No, eighth in on base plus slugging. So this is kind of a really interesting team. When you look at their first in batting average and on base percentage. They're good base runners. They steal bases. They don't strike out at all, hardly. But yet, the OPS hasn't quite been there, but it hasn't really mattered. I mean, they're tied for first in runs scored. So definitely playing some small ball here in New Zealand. And it so far appears to be working. But on the flip side of that, uh, the pitching has not been, good in the bullpen at least. 12th in ERA there. Well, they are pretty good at some other areas. I mean, they're also going to limit contact. So they're going to make contact at the plate, but then they're going to limit their opponents. Um, Defense has been good. But for whatever reason, they're missing something over here. It looks like, yeah, their staggering records 41 and 36, which I think is more reflective of what these stat tools kind of say. Is it says they're kind of an above average team, um, decent, for sure decent, and I think they should play better than what they are now. Look at Manuel Ramos here. He's tearing it up so far. Currently with a over 1,000 OPS, 4.3 WAR. Kind of I think an underrated player. I mean, he's been over 4 WAR, in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Well, 4 if you include 4 of the last 5 if you include this one. Just kind of an all-around solid hitter. He even steals some bases. I know he's due for an extension sometime soon, so we'll see what happens with him. Maybe former second overall pick back in a loaded 2066 draft class. It'll be fun to kind of see how that class plays out, when it's all said and done for them. All right, and the last team I think we're going to cover here, we'll head over to Toronto, which I mentioned earlier, another kind of disappointing team. See what's going on with them. It looks like a lot of their struggles have, just being kind of average at everything. Their offense is average to below average in almost every single category. Pitching staff is much of the same, other than their starters ERA. So they've had good starters pitching, good starting pitching. But other than that, not too much. They haven't been very good in June. They were worse in May, and after a good start in April. But they have kind of stumbled since. Looking at their lineup over here, a few guys are playing well. You have Ed Cox, who quietly is a pretty good infielder, especially you look at his talent. This screams a guy who can kind of like the other guys you're looking at, the league leaders in home runs. He's got a similar skill set where he should hit for a lot of power. I mean, he does have 16 home runs this year, so it has been there. I think with a guy 15 contact and 15 avoid K, you would expect better than a 266 batting average. So if he can turn that up a notch, he'll definitely take his career to the next step. He's only really had that one really good year. Another guy that has been playing well for them is Lawrence Phillips. He just got a big contract extension, so seems to be enjoying that for sure. But if you kind of look at like what's going wrong for them, Xavier Grant here, solid 14, 15, 15 pitcher, has not played very well. Another guy, the number 4 hitter, Jose Martinez, probably time to move him out of that spot. I mean, he's playing every day too, which, probably shouldn't be happening, with kind of ratings like that against left-handed pitching. Not something you want to see your first baseman looking against left-handed pitching in that lineup. And it's, of course, in typical OOTP fashion, it's the exact opposite. If you look at the splits here, he's got a 562 OPS against right-handed pitching, 724 against left-handed pitching. So maybe I don't know anything. But anyways, they got Jorge Morales, who's really struggled. I mean, he's really struggled. I mean, he's got a almost negative 1 WAR after coming off a really good year last year. I mean, his OPS has dropped over 300 points. So he can't hit anything right now. And his defense has been kind of meh as well, even though you probably expect a little better with someone with his ratings. But if Toronto is going to want to improve, I think they're another team that could definitely use some bullpen help. I mean, they got some guys here. I know they added Jacob Martin in the offseason. He's been pretty good, but guys are kind of just, again, they're just kind of dudes. Just kind of looking through them here. Jorge DeSalas, he was most recently in the rotation, so he looks like he's falling off pretty hard right now. Yeah, down to 13, 12, 13 ratings as starter. So that is sending you to the bullpen. But I mean, yeah. So they're a team that's good. Also need some options in the bullpen. If you got good relievers on the market this year, should be able to get a nice haul for them. And again, they need power too in this lineup. So your sluggers and your bullpen arms are certainly going to be at a premium this year at the deadline. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think we're kind of wrap it up from here. So hopefully if you guys made it through this whole video, still watching, appreciate that, and hopefully you enjoyed it and kind of learned a little bit more about the league. I guess we'll see if I get some positive feedback. Maybe we'll do this again. But so again, thank you for watching this, and I'll talk to you guys later.